The Supreme Court ruled that California's lower court ruling that Prop 8 defining marriage as a man and a woman was not valid, and that the lower court ruling held. Now, the other decision on the challenge to the Defense of Marriage Act, passed, I might add, during the Clinton administration, affirmed the rights of legally married gay couples to the same benefits as those given to straight married couples. Neither decision, however, stated outright that gays have a legal right to marriage, but left it up to the states or maybe the next Supreme Court ruling regarding gay marriage, which is expected in 2 to 3 years. Steve, citing that DOMA made some marriages less worthy and their families not as good was the moral message that was given. What's your take on the DOMA ruling?
Well, when DOMA was passed back in the mid-90s, there was not a legal right to between same-sex couples to marry in any jurisdiction in the country. And I think as a preemptive of a Republican-controlled Congress chose to define the terms of who could be married, and in effect would render void the full faith and credit clause. Now what that clause is it requires that each of the states in the federal system has to recognize validly adopted laws that apply to citizens of that state that are then in the new state.
If you're married in Maryland, you move to Utah, which doesn't recognize same-sex marriage, can you file a joint tax return that goes to the federal government? And how does that treat it at a state level? I mean, there are major issues here that, frankly, I think the Obama administration's in a pretty good spot where they can start to do basic regulations and basic decisions to try to implement the court's decision that will actually affect a lot of that and may be challenged by states. But at this point, you've got a Supreme Court decision that says, federal benefits have to be treated equally across the country. So I think it's going to be interesting how it plays out.
Could this decision have any other impact on Maryland?
Yeah, I think it could. And actually, I think it's going to be really a net positive for Maryland. If you look at it from a tax standpoint, you have now couples that are married and they're filing federal taxes if their income is high and if they don't fit within what had been the traditional family, and you have people with equal incomes, they're going to have the marriage penalty. So it's going to be increased taxes coming from these folks, let alone the divorce lawyers out there now have more people that they can represent.